slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness.
Pleasure of sitting next to someone who has not only shaped my life, but has also shaped a legend in the world of real estate, Roy Pascal, the ultimate real estate guru. We're going to dive deep into the journey and his passion into the industrial real estate world, but also what it's like to be a father in the business world with his son, the different complications maybe over the time, the different learning experiences, growing and doing different things together. So really excited to have you.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me here. I think I should start by saying that while we do have our challenges in the real estate business, this is way more fun than wiping your ass and changing your diaper.
Yeah, but my turn's coming soon, I hear.
I'm going to make sure of it.
Yeah, there was one thing I told you when you met Brody. I said, now that Brody's here, that I don't have to worry about that anymore.
You think you should still worry?
Yeah, well, we set up that trust account. The trust account was really to take care of a nice affordable housing for yourself, where you can have people do this for you guys to sign.
And a diaper service.
And it says today's day is Tuesday.
That's right.
So what I want to do a little bit, I just the past couple of days we put some videos out. We had a lot of interest from people, really understanding and really understanding you a little bit, but really wanted to understand the other side of you, because I think the thing is, I know one side of you as being my dad, and I think contractors and vendors we have that we use, they know another side of you, but nobody really knows maybe why we use possibly the term guru. And I think it's really valuable, because when I think of guru, I think of somebody that is really understands the fundamentals of something, right? So whether that's being a love guru, whether that's being an industrial guru, whether that's being a chef guru. And so I think maybe a year ago when we did something with Austin, we had talked a little bit about some of the things you did in college. And I think I want to start there. I want to start about the story of you in college and the vending machine business.
Okay, we can start there, but if it's okay, I would tell you that a lot of people ask me, how did you get into this, since I didn't have a family, there wasn't a family business, or there wasn't a pre-paved path of any sort. And the honest answer is I don't know. I'm not sure how this happened, but I do know that something caught my interest with real estate over time. And also that this was also at a time in the early to mid 80s where Donald Trump used to do all of his books, Art of the Deal, Making Deal kind of books. There was also motivational speakers, some around today, some aren't anymore. Some of those people were real estate oriented. So it gave me a real good, what would be today's reel was back then's book or cassette tape you would listen to in the car. And it just got me interested. And so that was the spark. And then the rest of it was just simply business. It was exercising the business muscle. And I also think that started out, I think the absolute key to who I am today is actually because I was born on and raised on a very busy road. And I used the front of our house to sell things from the time I was 10 years old, whatever I could get a hold of, a bike, a lawnmower, an old sign, anything. My poor parents answered the door sometimes 15 times a day on a weekend, and I was just selling things. And that turned into cars, and my dad and I had a passion for cars together, and we'd sell those out in front. So that sparked a business thing. To answer your question about college, you're there, and if you're going to be a business guy, you figure out who's my market. Well, the college students are. So I found a way to buy video games for relatively inexpensive. Keep in mind, this is 1982. I bought an Asteroids game, the first one I ever bought, paid $900 for it. Put it in the back of my van, took it to college, put it in the living room of my fraternity, and in 1.5 days of the first weekend, Saturday, halfway through Sunday, the machine was paid for.
That's crazy.
And I said, let's go get some more machines. And that turned into putting them in fraternities and sororities at Slippery Rock University. For those of you who don't know Slippery Rock University, it's the Harvard of Western Pennsylvania. And not really. But anyway, so I did that, and then I came up with this brilliant idea of putting soda machines in the fraternities, but instead I had beer in them, and the things you can't get away with today. But that was my vending route, and it paid for everything, including college. And but more importantly, it got my brain going, and I couldn't wait to graduate to get going. And I knew I wasn't going to do any of that. I was just going to get into the real estate business.
Okay, out of all the vending machines things you did, what is one funny story you have when you were doing the vending machine stuff that either happened during it or the process that was like pretty funny and interesting?
There's literally 15, but I'll tell you, boy, this is unrehearsed, but I can think of two right off the bat, where I had, first of all, that it became so successful at our main fraternity that I had to put a dollar changer in so I could get quarters to play the video machines and for the soda machine. And so one of the fraternity brothers, wise ass, figured out a way to tape like a string to a dollar. And since this is old technology, you could put the dollar in and you could pull it back out. It would give you the 4 quarters. And someone said, hey, this guy, Bob May, used to put a dollar into the machine and he would pull it back out. And I was like, oh, is that right? Okay, fine. Not much I could do about that. I'm not there all the time. So I called the guy. I said, I bought these dollar machines. How do I do this? He goes, there's no real way to do that. But he goes, if you go inside with a pair of wire cutters and snip the orange wire, that's what reads that it's a dollar or not. So if you put a $5 bill in, it won't read it. It'll just think it's a dollar. And so that while he's putting his dollar in, pulling it back out with a string, I clipped the thing. So some drunk ass goes and puts $10 in, and then they get 4 quarters. So I made up $9 on him. And say with a 5, and every now and again I get a 20, and it'd be like, whoa, I scored. And people were drunk, so they didn't know. They didn't remember. Not one person ever asked me about that. The other funny story, which I just think is a hoot to this day, is I had the machines at other fraternities and sororities, and they were like, we want a cut. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll give you a cut. That's how the business works. Yeah. So some places were 25 or a third, 25% a third or whatever. And word got back to our fraternity that the other fraternities and sororities were getting a cut. And they said, well, what about us? And I was like, no, I belong to this fraternity. I'm not giving you guys a cut. Yeah. And I said, plus, we have these parties at night, and the kegs run out. And who's the first guy you come to? Hey, where's the keys? Open up the beer machine, and everybody can. The beer machine's empty on Sunday. And I said, so I give away free beer, but I'm not giving you a cut. But it was funny that I basically never gave my own fraternity a cut of a profit. So that was my most profitable stop. So good stuff.
Oh, that's good. That's good. No, I guess that's a little bit of that's business, right? It's sales, business starts into something, right?
Yeah, it's what I call today. You don't get what you don't ask for.
Yeah. All right. So then let's go right into sticking with college, the first building you bought.
Sure. So I was in college. I was in I think it was it was the summer between my junior and senior year. And people who know me know that I have this particular disdain for strip clubs and go-go bars. It's just not my thing. I just don't like it. But my buddies did at the time. So I was like, yeah, I'll go. We went down to Bound Brook, New Jersey to visit Bob Januzzi at his strip club. I was my normal disinterested self. It's just a weird thing with me. I just don't like those places. I got talking to Bob at the bar, and he's trying to sell me the strip club. And I'm like, nah, I have no interest in it, owning any of this. But he goes, I have this little building down the street. So I said, let's go. We walked down the street, 5,000 square foot building on a corner, total clunker. The building was $105,000. And I said to him, all right, sounds good. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. I had read some books and stuff, but I said, I think the numbers seem to make some sense. And keep in mind, back then, a $100,000 building probably netted like 15 grand. Like it's like literally what we would rent a parking spot for today. So it was.
And what do you mean by net? So like what the rent would have been a year was 15 grand a year.
Yeah, it was probably like a 12 or 14% cap rate because interest rates were much higher back then.
Yeah.
But it was like literally no money at all, and by today's standards. And so I said to him, I'm like, okay, that's great. And the guy's looking at me, I'm in college, where are you going to get the money? And I said, I need you to hold a mortgage. And I said, I have this vending business. I have some money. I'll give you $5 grand in cash. You hold a mortgage for $100 grand. I'll buy the property. It's off your hands. And that was the first property I ever bought.
When did you sell it?
I held on to it unnecessarily long, so that because it had like what do they call it?
Like a sentimental.
Yeah, like a sentimental, emotional value. First property, bought it while I was in college. Blah blah blah, and it was probably in the 10 or 12 years ago, and after a lot of time. You'd think, oh wow, would you sell for like $3 million? I think it was like 400 grand. But percentage wise, if you divide that up, not a bad investment.
Yeah.
Bound Brook's a floodplain. The place was underwater 3 times while I owned it, and I finally just said I'm out, and I sold it. But I still keep a picture of it in my office.
Interesting. Okay. So then let's go into, so now we're 40 years in, 40 years. What do you think out of all, from buying that building to where you are now, then there's been crazy stuff between doing all the real estate, the retail, the renovations, now completely over into industrial now. And that's when I came in. And so I mostly know more all about industrial than retail. But out of your 40 years, what do you think there's one thing that sticks in your brain that's been one of the biggest challenges you faced in real estate?
That's a really, really interesting question because most of the challenges that I had, I'd compartmentalize this. In the beginning, the challenges were you just didn't know any better.
Right.
I look back, I get night sweats when I think about some of the transactions I did and things that I got involved with, the mistakes I made, the errors, the dumb stuff. And I wish I had a mentor at the time. My learning curve would have been way shorter. Like your learning curve was so short in this business because we could sit just like this and talk about things.
Yeah.
I didn't have that. So I had to go do it, make a mistake, try something different. That was still wrong. Make a mistake. It was the waste of time that I think was the most frustrating thing for me, but I didn't know it at the time. I thought I was doing great, inching along. And then the other half of that question is it's yourself. This real estate business, especially as if you're going to be a broker or a principal, it's a very much an alone business. Like you're only as good as whatever you're doing. Sure, you can have a team, you can work with another guy, you can have partners and stuff. But if you're going to learn this business and learn it right, you have to do it yourself. You have to wash, rinse, repeat, and stay inside your box, wherever that box is. Hopefully, it's outside of the big box, and you have to continue to learn, motivate yourself, and challenge yourself so you can grow. There is absolutely no paved road that tells you exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
And especially back then, don't forget, I got in the business. There was no computers, there was no cell phones, there was maybe the beeper was invented or something.
Yeah.
But
I remember the ones in your car. It was like in that center thing.
Yeah.
But I think like there's one thing I want to pick out of that you said alone.
Right.
And I think what a lot of people struggle with being basically being an entrepreneur, right? Because that's all this is. Whether you're a broker and you're doing it all, you're still an entrepreneur, right? Is that feeling alone a little bit. Like, right, you're doing it all yourself. And it's one thing that I was talking to somebody about the other day where he was telling me, he's like, I just want my employees to understand what I feel. And I sit down and say, they're never going to understand what you feel because the equity and the time and the energy you've put into starting something, right? Whether it was your first brokerage company, your first company, your first roofing company, you have that feeling, you have that pain, you have that investment. They didn't do anything, right? If you fold your company, they can go find another job, but you can't. You live with that the rest of your life. So there's that sense of being alone where it's just like you want your employees to understand what you feel like so you don't feel alone. And that's just not going to happen. So you have to understand, I think, when we started building a team here, it was nobody's alone here. Everyone understands what's going on now. You don't feel like I'm doing everything by myself because as we started creating this team, it started feeling like, okay, someone's going to do this. Someone's going to help me with this. I'm not doing everything alone, but it really is like a lone survivor thing in the beginning. You're really fighting.
Yeah, it really is. But I use the word alone, but that and everything you said is accurate. But the better word is on your own.
Yeah.
And so you can read all the books you want. You can talk to all the people you want, but you have to go and do it. It's like a lot of things in life. You just have to go and do it. And it's helpful to have someone stand there and say, do this, do that, do this, and point you in the right direction. But at some point, you have to go do it. You have to be an Energizer bunny, and so and if you have someone point you in the correct direction, you'll learn incredibly shorter. And going from the part about if you yourself are motivated enough to be able to work by yourself, then you are your own Energizer bunny, and you'll be able to go and go and go. But you're going to hit walls, you're going to hit potholes, you may fall off a cliff a couple of times. It's okay. The key to it is resiliency. it's the best compliment I ever got was, man, you are resilient. You know, you get knocked down, you stand up. You
Yeah,
fail miserably, and you get up and you
that's a
keep
good
going
point.
if you believe in what you're doing.
Yeah, and because you ran right into my next question was like the biggest piece of advice I would say you could split into two. If somebody came up to you and said, um, uh, "I want to start in real estate. How do I start?" But okay, I've started right. I'm either a broker and I'm trying, or I'm trying. I bought my first property. Like, how do I get to the next level? And part of it, I think, is a really good thing you said, which is like resilience right there, which is
Hmm.
not everything's going to be perfect. Not everything's going to see like you see on the internet.
Hmm.
There's going to be really tough days, and even we do things. There's really tough days. You know, working
Yeah.
through a bunch of deals right now, and they're throwing curveballs left and right.
Hmm.
And so the next question in this real estate, and then we're gonna move on to some fun things, is what's one piece of advice you think um, a younger generation and an older generation um, could use starting into the real estate industry, whether it's investment or brokerage or anything? I would keep it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to me, it seems a lot easier today because you can go on your phone and if you start watching real estate related things, you're
Yeah.
just going to get a whole bunch. And there's a lot of people with different ideas, whatever. You have to weed through it, but you have to educate yourself on what you're doing. And I have and I find that when you say doing real estate, there's sometimes people are paranoid and don't even want to get into like the brokerage business to rent apartments or sell homes. You know, maybe it's not for them. But if you want to say, if you say, I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to kill it, and I am going to be a millionaire, and I'm going to be a centimillionaire, and I'm going to do it. You really you need to be a special kind of motivated. The thing that I would tell younger people when they get into the business, you have to go talk to some people. Go find out what does the real estate business mean? Are you want to be a broker? Do you want to be a principal? Do you want to be a developer or whatever? And I find it really ironic that a lot of people that come see me never act on it. So to me, there's a 1 or 2% of anybody who's ever asked me about this business, and I encourage them talk to me, go talk to some other people. And I've literally had people say to me, well, I'd love to do this, but I just I don't know how to get started. And I'm like, don't you and your wife own a home? Like you already started,
Yeah.
right? And they go, oh, yeah, that's right. And they still never do whatever it takes to just take that first step and be motivated. But if you can educate yourself and be motivated and just kind of blindly plow ahead, doesn't matter what age you are, you can do this. And the education comes quickly and it comes pretty fast in volume as well
Yeah.
over a very short period of time if you're really focused on it. It's the kind of business it's very difficult to do part-time.
Okay.
Your best bet is to jump in, immerse yourself, learn everything you can, and you have no choice but to be successful if you do that.
All right, so I want to go into a couple things real quick. We're gonna go back on some. I want to talk about in a couple of seconds about economy and real estate a little bit because I think it's an interesting time right now, and I think like you said before, you spend a good time of your education learning about what's coming next, or
Right.
hope everyone knows what's coming next. But in the meantime, what do you think is the biggest lesson growing up you wish you could have taught me that you didn't, but you know, things could transition out. But back then, when I was growing, that you wish you could have taught me.
I really don't know what. Boy, it's such an interesting question because you you are very different than your brother and sister, just like they're very different than you.
Yeah.
And I have had several people ask me, "Did you know that Spencer was going to get into the business when he was younger?" And I said, I wasn't sure he was going to get into the business, but I knew he would be in business. He would do something for himself. It's
Yeah.
just the personality, and it doesn't mean that your brother and sister can't do that. It just that personality didn't come through, and then you. You were just different like me. We were similar students. School was not that interesting. It's like you sat in the classroom and everything out the window was way more interesting than what was on the chalkboard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those are the C student thing is a real thing. Yeah, okay. If I was an A+ student, maybe I'd be an engineer. Maybe I'd be more successful. But I didn't want to go to school. Actually, I did. I wanted to see my friends, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to do school. But ultimately, I grew up a little bit in college, and I realized that I should learn. I should pay more attention. My business classes were interesting, and then that's when I took on school. And the same thing happened to you.
Yeah.
You went along, and so I backed off. I mean, sure. Would you like your most parents want their kids, oh, I'm so proud of my son. He's done this, and he's a fantastic athlete, and he's an A plus, and he's going to an Ivy League school.
Didn't do any of that.
That was never going to happen, and that's okay because we all end up where we're supposed to be somehow in the universe. And so not to say that when I was in the principal's office with you every single week that I didn't wish I wasn't in the principal's office every week, but I also remember my parents were in the principal's office every week, so that was my job. And so the answer is I don't really think I would have done anything different than happened. And I look at it now and go, looks like everything worked out just fine.
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. I have no comment on that because I don't remember any of those stories. So, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I wish I had taught you that you should
Now the truth's
focus.
gonna come
You
out.
should focus more on real estate than social media. But there was no social media, so I didn't know not to teach you that. I'm just kidding. This is wonderful. I'm glad you're expressing yourself and doing this.
Yeah, this is fun, but yeah, real estate's that's not a 9 to 5 job. That's your whole life.
That's the beauty of it.
If I always tell us, like, anytime anyone gets into it, I even tell the guys, I'm like, wait until you get your first nightmare. When you get your first nightmare, you need to be scared that you're not doing something right. You know, like, oh man, am I getting this? You know, I always think of one building that gave me nightmares.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wait to get rid of it. I couldn't get rid of it, you know?
Yeah. Well, don't forget that those nightmares are simply masked with lessons that you still need to have because you're not confident in whatever that topic is.
Yeah.
Like there's very little that scares me or that I don't worry about anything anymore.
Yeah.
Because if I'm worried about it, I get away from it. I shouldn't be doing it if I'm actually truly worried. If I'm just saying, I don't know how this is going to work out, who cares? It's going to work out however it works out. And luckily, the nice thing about doing this for your whole life is that you're in a spot where you can say, I've experienced almost all the things there are to experience, and I have a sense for when things are going to work out, and I just blindly move forward, whether it be with my time, my energy, money, whatever it is. And when you don't feel good, you say, yeah, this doesn't right.
You get that feeling immediately.
Yeah, that old gut feeling people say, man, it is 100% true. And if you don't watch your feelings and pay attention to them and work with them, not against them, if you do that, you'll get further. And if you don't, you'll be frustrated.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. You know, it's pretty interesting on a couple of those things. And so, going into that flow a little bit, you and I have been working together almost 8 years now.
Is it really that long?
Yeah.
Wow, great.
So, and one of the biggest things, I think there's two people in my head, and I won't call them out or anything, that we both know, and they asked this question once, and it's always stuck with me. I've left it in my phone because I was like, oh, someday I want to be able to share this to a bunch of people. And the question was, how do you separate family dynamics from business when you're working together? So it's funny that question was asked me because we do it very differently.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also on my side to answer the question a little bit was I kind of use the same thing as like, let's say you and your wife work together, right? Business stays at the office and you go home, it's family time, right? And I think I taken that into this. Like when we're here, it's all business. When we leave, we really don't talk about business that much. When we're hanging out with your fiance or my fiance, or we go on a trip with the family.
Our friends.
Yeah, we never talk about business.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it depends on where you are. When I was younger, I talked about it all the time.
Yeah.
I can remember being reprimanded, like, do we have to talk about business at the dining room table or for Thanksgiving or whatever? And as you get further along, you get super confident with all the things you're doing, and you get really busy.
Yeah,
it's enough. I think about my day yesterday. Right, I was up. I'm always up early, but I was out the door, and by the time I got home from doing things yesterday, it was a 12-hour day. I've had tons of 16-hour days, but I'm a little older. 12-hour days are a little bit of a grind. But you know what? When I get home, I don't need to talk about it. I don't need to call you and ask you a question. I'm tired, right? So that's the best thing. Go work hard, get it done, and know that you have to have some separations. I need some separation in my life. We should be able to go out to dinner or go to a football game or go to a hockey game or a concert, and we just enjoy our time and our company together. And it doesn't have to be all about this. And that's a maturity thing. That took years to figure that out.
Yeah, because what I've really noticed the difference in that dynamic of business and work is, one, when things are running smoothly as a whole in the company, right? Like things have a spot, things are not all gibberish, and things are going all over, and this tenant's having a problem, this building's having a problem, and what's going on with this more. When things are so discombobulated, I see it spreads out. Like we could be at a Jets game, be like, hey, did you hear anything update on that? Do you have anything on this, right? Things are so organized and clean now that you can actually leave and not be like, you have to take this entire mess with you every spot we go. It's like, hey, did you hear anything? Like we could literally go to a Formula One race on a weekday, like when we went to Vegas with Max, and business I don't think was brought up once.
Yeah, no, the phone's off too. It's like, that's our time. If we're putting an effort into doing something else, it's going to make us better, and it's going to make us more efficient, and it's going to make us cleaner and crisper by not doing that and not involving every waking moment.
Yeah,
I agree.
So then rolling into that, what do you think, for some people who do work with their kids, what is one piece of advice as a father, whether they work with the father working with their daughter or son, you would give that parent to their kid?
Sure. I would start out with that. My answer is going to be different than maybe some people, because I'm a little psychotically like over the top on efficiency.
Yeah.
I don't like wasting time, and if I do, it'll be wasted time because it is the downtime, and you can sit around and do nothing. But so to that vein, I know a lot of families where, not necessarily just in the real estate business, where a son or daughter came into a family business and then they had to leave. And while that sounds really inefficient to me, it sounds really unfun.
Yeah.
And if you recall, when you got into this business, I told you, come up here while you were still in school, take the business for a test drive, see if you like it, and you have to at least like the flavor of Kool-Aid. You don't have to drink it yet, but you have to at least like it. Obviously, at this point, you drank the Kool-Aid, you're in it, you love it. What I expected, so I never have to worry about the point I was making, which is firing your kid or having your kid leave and just go like, I didn't like this business, and now maybe I don't even like you because you put me through what you put me through. That sounds brutal at every level.
Yeah.
So we are sidebar 100% blessed and really lucky to be able to work together and be able to not have basically any problems whatsoever. And the only problems that we do have end up being opportunities insofar as learning. I've told you, I've learned from you because of your style. Your style is the 2020s. My style is the 80s, 90s, and 2000s or whatever. And it works for me, so I keep doing it.
And we could tell the way you type that you still have that. It's the two fingers.
I only have two fingers,
So that advice on that side is like really important. I think also on a son's side, there's two really major points for kids who do work with, whether it's your mom or your dad, is to one, just listen. Mm-hmm. Understand that you're going to have a lot of opinions, a lot of things. And I spent my first 2 years really just listening. I didn't really come up with any ideas. I didn't really do anything. We lived together for almost a year, and it was, 7 a.m. gym, then spent the whole day till 11 at night in the living room doing nothing but real estate. But then on top of that, it was like, okay, how do I do this? How can I absorb as much information I can in a limited amount of time? And I think that's for anything, whether you're in the construction business, the landscaping, the investment side, the mortgage side, is that if your parent is running a successful company, at no point should you find a way to argue with them, right? Like there's times when you can challenge things. And I think that's two big things is kids want to argue with them, but maybe sometimes you want to challenge something and it comes off like very like, I want to do this. Why don't you listen to me? But at the end of the day, if your parents developed a very successful company, your job is to manage it and continue to run it. Once it's managing and running in a really nice form, you could then and you understand what you're doing, you could take it to the next level. You could scale it to the next thing. But I think in this day and age, people want instant gratification, so it needs to happen immediately. And I think I wanted that in the beginning, and I just set in my head. I go, like, it's not going to happen. You just got to get out of your head right now. So I spend a lot of time going to meetings, being quiet, absorbing it, learning it, asking questions, doing the same thing. And I figured out that my learning curve and my instant gratification came a lot quicker when I stopped thinking about that stuff. Stopped thinking about, I want the money now. I want to have this now. I want to build this. When you stop thinking about it, you just settle down and you just learn and learn. And the biggest thing is it's okay not to be right. And that was hard because I wanted to be like, oh, look, I found this property before you did. I knew I wasn't going to find that first. I haven't had enough time to sit down and do all that.
Yeah, you could get lucky, but luck isn't a career.
No. Yeah. And so instead, I think a lot of people just need to understand that you just need to stop, listen, and just know that the next 5 or 10 years it's just learning. This episode is proudly sponsored by the Pascal Zone, your ultimate partner in scaling, streamlining, and managing your business for maximum growth. Whether you're looking to optimize operations, expand your team, or take your company to the next level, the Pascal Zone has the tools, experience, and resources to make it happen. Ready to scale smarter, not harder? Visit PascalZone.com and let's get started today. Now back to the show.
Hey, don't forget, I had to do the same thing. I had to stop, shut your mouth and listen to some suggestions, right? And a couple of the examples that I realize is that there are different ways to do things today. I think I was kind of saying that there was, I find people that say, like, let's get rich quick scheme, and it's not, it's just not that way. So over all this time, I learned how to do things my way. But you come in, and once I give you the foundation of the industry and what we're doing here, it's okay for you to go. You're out continuing to educate yourself. You're looking at certain publications, or you're seeing things online or talking to other people, and you're learning different techniques.
Yeah.
And what has been just as magical as you coming to work with me and having my son not only be in the friend zone, but now working together, which is the best you could ever expect. It's that I am now learning some of the things that you've learned, and maintaining the open mind to the fact that there is new ways to do things. Yeah. And the fact that we have an electronic filing cabinet where I can access everything at one point, that if you weren't here, it just wouldn't have happened.
No, but you know what it is? It's streamlining. But that's what made this easier, right? It was like there was a foundation here. When after I really drank that Kool-Aid, I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to build a brand. I need to have something. And I want people to know, they know Roy Pascal, but I want them to know the name, right? I don't need them to know me right now. So taking the time to spend these years of creating a brand, creating all this stuff. And I look at it now, like I walked into this office basically being done, and I was like, I would have never known how to do this. I would have never known. I never even knew what a base cove was. I never knew what a lentil was. I never even know saddles and freight. Like I didn't know that. And just building this alone, I learned so much on the construction side.
Right.
This is a full teardown, full demo. Right. And I actually sat here with the contractor Charlie today, and it was actually an 8-month build. And I was thinking, oh, it's a year long, but it didn't take that long because I looked back when we started.
Sure.
And it took 8 months to completely unfold something that was awful and disgusting, and there was such a good learning curve to that as well. Being here every day and figuring out that I don't want to be on a job site every single day was, brutal. But so I think there's a lot to learn on the family side. I think there's a lot of, at the end of the day, it's easy to get mad at your parent to be like, well, why don't I think I have a better idea and all that. And there's been times where I've literally been like, I'm going to figure this out. I know what to do. And there's a property I could think of that I've just been, I had so many issues with, but I knew I was like, I'm going to try to figure this out. And then I just would stop myself and go like, why am I sitting here beating myself up? Let me go to my mentor, right? So I'd walk in, I'd be like, what do I do here? And he'd be like, oh, do this, this, and that. And in my head, I'm like, this ain't going to fucking work. There's no way this is going to work. Walk on, works immediately.
Right.
And it's just like, we were doing some leasing at a property in Pennsylvania. And I had some complications. You're like, oh, just do this X, Y, and Z. Went down to Pennsylvania, and it worked.
Right.
right? It's sometimes you don't need to sit there, bang your head over the situation when it's like, let's put this problem aside for a sec.
Right.
Make-
We have the advantage. We can work smart together.
Right.
Because once you have that relationship, this question involves the elephant in the room of like, what happens when you do work with your father or your son, whoever has the problem, and you're like, damn, this isn't working.
Yeah.
Or, you know, my dad just doesn't get it anymore. He's super outdated. Or I'm saying, you know, my kid didn't learn a thing in college. He's never going to make it. There's a lot of those kinds of things that happen. And we're super blessed to have handled this the correct way. We started out, we spent all of our time together. Absolutely, I would recommend that. You have to teach your child what it is that you do and make sure that they want to do that first. Because if they don't want to do it, you're wasting your time. Like I said before, once they do, hold on and educate them, but you have to let go as you move through the process. And honestly, what you were just talking about before with this office, I think you understand that, like, I very rarely came into this space for a reason. I first of all, I'm trying to teach myself to be less involved and to have less opinions. I'm always yapping about this, that, or the other thing, and I'm trying to slow down and not be annoying like that. But also, this was a real estate renovation of an office, but it's also is expressed. It was able. I was going to say it's expressional, like where you're able to express what it is you know. You're expressing an artistic talent of sorts.
Yeah. That I didn't know I had.
But you didn't know you had because it didn't get awoken, right?
Yeah.
Or it wasn't awakened.
And how much a pain in the ass office is.
There's all that. Like, could you imagine if you had to do this for every tenant who moved in? Really expensive, and that's why office buildings are a crappy investment. But at the end of the day, you exercised a bunch of muscles. Like, you exercised that little tiny muscle in your delt or something that no one could ever exercise, because no one lets their kid who's under 30 years old run a high-end office renovation project. But you had to do that, and when you had questions, you came and asked me. And when I had comments, most of the time I didn't say anything because it didn't matter. Like, why poke things in the ribs when it's going good anyway? So that back and forth that we have is the reason for the success.
Yeah.
What you do and how motivated you are is part of it as well, of course. And me wanting to take time and educate you and all that, it's invaluable. And I think the really important part is that the people in our organization, directly in our organization, and the people that we deal with outside of the organization see that. And it wasn't always so easy in the beginning, because people would be like, "Oh, this kid, oh, it's the owner's kid with this and that." And I said, just stay in your lane, just keep going. Eventually, before you know it, you'll sound exactly like you know what you're doing, which you do now, and enjoy being young. Like, a lot of times when I was young, when I was 22 in this business, I couldn't wait to be 40, because I was just like tired of people hawking me for being young.
Yeah.
And then and I said, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. If you don't like me, that's your problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's not none of my business.
It's fun. And like you said before, I think if you don't love what you're doing, like, you have to absolutely love this. Like, because it's only going to get worse, right? Or and if it doesn't get worse, it's just going to be, well, I'm not going to progress to the next step, because there's like learning curve being so short out. And it doesn't matter what trade you're in, right? It doesn't matter if you're an electrician, your dad's an electrician, you're like, well, Dad, I want to become a really big company and make this nation, or make this, whatever you want to do with that, right? If you don't love that, then you're just going to go through the movements every day and be like, oh, I'm just going through, I'm happy where I am, I don't want to get anything else, right? And I think we talked in the beginning, and you're like, hey, look, I'm going to give you two options here. The first thing is, you got to love it. And if you absolutely love it, here's your two options. One, manage everything we have, learn the business best you can, learn everything you can about it, and you can manage this trust for your brother and sister and just really well. Or you could do that and take the company to the next level, buy more stuff, learn how to buy stuff, learn how to buy bigger and do better things. And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna invest my entire life, move all the way back to New Jersey to just manage something for my brother and sister.
Right.
Yeah,
And yourself.
And myself. Yeah, do all this work just to be like, okay, I didn't want to do that. I was like, I know we could do more. Like, I can't wait to do development stuff and someday have a development company where it's strictly just building, and we build on that side. And then you have the investment side and the funding side. And so I'm just going to continue looking at that, and just how can you add more and more and more onto it.
Yeah, you have the basis and the equipment inside of you now to do that. and you obviously have the love and support from the family and from everybody in this company.
Yeah.
So you have an obligation to yourself to do the best you can. And honestly, what I've enjoyed the most, probably the most, other than just knowing exactly what you're doing, and it's almost impossible to make a mistake at this point. I really enjoy that, but I've enjoyed helping other people into the industry. You
Yeah.
can see some of that inside of our own company. You can see some of that outside of our company, and once you help people into the industry, it's helping people in general is just a really important part of life's little karma formula that the more you do to help yourself and help others, the more that comes to you, the more uh, obligation is given to you. And so now you have to go out and be more successful so you can do more charity and so you can help other people. And I like that loop a lot. I think it's awesome. It's not where I was when I was 20, 30, 40 years old, but
Yeah.
in your 60s, early 60s, it's fantastic. It's really probably the most rewarding part of everything.
Okay. No, I can't wait to be there.
Yeah.
So the next thing, I think a lot, it goes down to, like, I would say sales calls a little bit, but people always ask, and I think it's always more of a question, how do I buy my first deal? And I don't like that question too much because there's just so many different things, right? But I want you to kind of describe how you do so well at smooching these sellers. And when I say that is, we buy a lot of properties from either families, older people, and a lot of time these people are deterred. They don't want to deal with a broker. They don't want, either they've been screwed over so many in the past, and for some reason, the amount of deals we bought last year well under the per square foot number that anything was selling. And some of the techniques, I want to talk about mostly your techniques of talking to these people, making them feel comfortable, how you've approached these deals in a way where, we've approached some deals and you made them feel like, hey, look, this came up out of nowhere. Thought we were closing next week, but you still managed to make them feel comfortable and finish that deal and still have a relationship with some of these sellers.
Sure. So there's no particular magic sauce. Over the time that I've been doing this, I've found that the best way, the best way to find properties in old school way was you go out and you knock on doors yourself and you keep doing it until you find properties. That's obviously not practical as you get a little bit older, but and also when you're super busy. But I love the brokerage community. I repeat myself over and over every day, incessantly, about what kind of properties are we looking for, where are we looking for them, what are the criteria that we have. You have to be disciplined because in this business, especially the bigger the properties that you get involved with, you can find more deals than you have dollars for when you're a family company and you're self-funded. So then there's a little piece of it is like, well, who do I think might be the correct amalgamation for a deal? Maybe you split a deal when they get a little bigger. You have some partners. I spent my whole career owning either with my retail properties and my partner in retail, we were 50-50. And then with the industrial stuff, I owned 100% of everything, but it was, smaller properties, not as large a portfolio. So you can grow a lot faster if you're a little more open-minded, but finding those properties is making sure, again, you have to have that box that is what you invest in and you stay inside that box and you wash, rinse, repeat. And the repeat part is everybody you talk to, you tell them what you're looking for and the different factors of what it is. And after time, you get hundreds of submissions a week that all are deleted, but there's always a little nug in there. And then even the little nugs that you find, sometimes they don't work out. Someone beat you out of the deal, whatever. But I've found that there's an absolute key to buying real estate is you have to be either very first or very last. And very often in the middle is where either nothing happens or you make a bad deal or whatever. So upfront means off market. You're buying a property off market. You don't have competition. More than likely, you're not going to overpay. You're certainly not going to compete to overpay. And then last is when I'm always shocked. I'd never throw a file away. I'd never delete a file. How many times have I rooted through a drawer or rooted through some old emails and said, oh yeah, I love that property.
Yeah.
It's 2.5 years later. And finally the seller sobered up and now you can make a deal, or something else changed. You can make a deal. So, and you can only do that if you've been doing this a long time, because things circle back. And I think another huge factor is that, is just being 100% honest and transparent with everybody. You treat everybody how you want to be treated, and pay the people who are supposed to get paid.
Yeah.
And a lot of those little things where a lot of people go, yeah, I know. But then as soon as they're challenged on something and they don't think you should pay a commission, or that's a little too much money. The number of times I've paid things where I thought there was too much money just because it was the credible thing to do, and just so that I didn't have people walking around talking about someone who shortchanges the brokers or retraded a seller, or whatever it might be. Sometimes those things have to happen with sellers, but at the end of the day, honesty really is in any business, but in this small industry, local industry that we're in, honesty is the only policy.
Okay. I like that. It's, I think what I've learned a lot from that deal too is that a lot of people will try to play big guy. Oh, I'm this big guy. I have all that. It don't matter. I have all that because I've been trustworthy. I've respected between the brokerage and the seller, and transparency is I've used that all of them. And I like when I started to be like, hey, look, I'm the guy that I'm gonna let you know when I'm doing my survey. I'm gonna let you know when I'm doing my environmental stuff. You're gonna know every step through the process. I think letting them know, here's the steps I'm gonna do through the process. You're gonna be 100% involved, the broker and the seller. Like, I don't want the broker to know everything. I want the seller to know exactly what I'm doing. I want to get on the phone with the seller and the broker and let you guys know what we're doing.
Communicating, right?
It's
the key. And you know what? I think there's another compliment that I've received a couple of times, excuse me. And that is when someone says, like, they'll bring me a property and I'll say, oh, that's awesome. Great. Let's do it. I think the price is fair. Let's buy it. Like, you don't even want to see it? No, it's fine. We'll see it at some point. And the pace at which you can make a decision and then stick with that decision, and the seller and the broker can count on you to close. Yeah, that is something you have to do over and over and over again. And we've done hundreds and hundreds of transactions, and I'm not saying it was always like that in the beginning, but what I've learned, that is the key, is be aggressive, be certain, and be credible.
I love it. Now, last question. What is the future for you going forward now? What does it look like now from your 20-year-old self every day going? I know you were talking about, I could do the 18 hours. That's done. What is the future now going forward, you think, in your real estate career?
No, I can honestly tell you, 40 plus years later, and because of this relationship that we have, and for a lot of reasons, I have never felt better about this business. I've never felt more motivated. I've never felt more sure of myself. And that's really important, to have confidence and to know exactly what you're doing, because the mistakes take 10 times longer to unwind than just being disciplined and saying no. And so the future is exactly what you see. And catching up on an incorrect path from my past. And I, for some reason in the past, I didn't embrace land development the way I should have. And I was actually thinking about this the other night, and I literally got the sweats on the couch thinking about a couple of development deals I tried to do in my 20s with these weirdo office buildings and a residential multifamily expansion of a property I already owned. And it was ill-fed. It was ridiculous. I literally had the planning board saying to me, like, why did you even make this application? I didn't know what was happening. So I got turned off to development. I chiefly got turned off to development because when there was an ugly duckling in town, I got used to the town saying, oh, wow, you're going to fix up that building. Great. What color red carpet would you like? And they would kind of kiss your ass. And in the development process, it was always like, nope, no, another developer trying to ruin our town or whatever. Yeah. And keep in mind, I'm talking about how it was in the 80s and 90s, maybe early
Yeah.
2000s. And not that land development's any easier today. It's probably more difficult, but I am way better equipped. I've now done some development, doing a bunch more, and I see that as the future.
Great.
And part of it is that there's only so many buildings that are out of repair that get fixed up.
Yeah.
And so there's not as much. It's pretty picked over on the upside properties, but we still find them. And we actually have 4 of them under contract as we speak. But there's even more land that we're going through the development process on, and I'm really excited about that. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it's one of the things I haven't conquered.
Yeah.
And we're going to conquer it together,
Yeah.
you and I and our company, and it's going to be really, really fun. It's going to be super challenging, and we're going to align ourselves with people that to make sure we can do some really big ass stuff without making mistakes.
Perfect. Well, that's the first wrap on the podcast.
Bam.
Roy Pascal, the ultimate guru in the real estate industry.